So CNN recently released an article exposing an online academy that men would use to conspire on how to commit horrible crimes, mainly against their wives, and this skyrocketed in popularity when videos and posts were made claiming the number of men to be a part of this group was 62 million, which is roughly a third of the men in the USA. Now, the first thing I want to say is that I need to make it abundantly clear that this video is not being used as a way to defend men as a gender, nor to attack women. I am not trying to not all men any type of this discussion, nor am I going to not all men with any of the points that I make here. The main purpose of this video is to correct the incredibly damaging misinformation being spread surrounding this article by people who are either too stupid or too focused on fear-mongering to actually read it. Once again, this is not to not all men anything, but it's because the misinformation and uneducated rage surrounding this issue is causing more harm to the actual victims and potential future victims of academies like this. The funnel systems and websites that are actually being used by millions to learn how to do things like this are not being cited or spoken about correctly. This means that solving the problem becomes virtually impossible because no one actually knows what the problem is, and any genuine attempts to speak about the problem and correct whatever misinformation is being spread is quickly shut down. Quite frankly, the amount of people online who have shown themselves to not care about misinformation, particularly when it comes to sexual assault, rape, and women, is terrifying. I'm being as frank as I can here because every video I've seen of people correcting the falsehoods that are being presented by people is quickly bombarded with hordes of comments accusing them of being part of the problem. Because why would someone's first instinct be to defend men at the arrival of this incredibly harrowing news story? I'm sure I'll get that exact same very shallow criticism here as well, but just know that the main purpose of this video isn't to defend men or rapists in any way, shape, or form. It's simply just to correct misinformation and tell you guys what is actually happening and what the article is actually about, because it is incredibly damaging still and very terrifying news. In fact, it's because of the seriousness of the news being presented here that us getting it right is imperative to the discussion. To illustrate the type of posts that are being made about this, I'll show you this one, for example. I'll read the caption first, and then we'll talk about the post. If you're seeing angry women all over your feed, in addition to Epstein, Swalwell, and 800 other things happening this week alone, this is why. CNN exposed an online Grape Academy, a site where men coach each other on how to drug their wives, live stream the assault for $20 a viewer, and swap tips on getting away with it. I'm not joking, and men online are defending it. It's terrible. One site, 20,000 plus videos, 62 million visitors in February alone, the shortest month of the year. The women in these videos are wives, partners, mothers, most of them don't even know. So the claim in this caption here is that 62 million individual people visited this website in the month of February alone, which just for reference, like I said in the intro, would be a third of all men in the USA. Now the actual post itself lightens that accusation massively, but still gets it very, very wrong. CNN exposed a global online academy, 62 million visits in February alone. Now, 62 million visits is very different from 62 million visitors, I'm sure we can all agree. And if that were the only difference, I wouldn't be as angry about the misinformation. However, that's not true either, because the real story that this article is talking about is a Telegram group that people were funneled into via a pornographic website that had about 1,000 men in it. Now, the difference between 62 million men visiting a website in February alone that is specifically designed to teach you how to rape your partners versus 1,000 men doing that exact same thing, the difference is staggering. I'm sure we can all agree. And it is incredibly important that we acknowledge the latter is true and the former is not. Now, one other thing I feel as though I need to make abundantly clear, because a lot of people are going to attack me in bad faith with this. I obviously believe that any number above 0 in regards to men or people visiting a website like this is disgusting, unforgivable, and needs to be punished accordingly. This would be worth talking about if just one man was a part of this group chat. In fact, it'd be worth talking about if 0 people were a part of the group chat and it just existed. But you can see the fear-mongering already working wonders in the comments of this TikTok where someone says it's 82 million in March alone. That's nearly half of the men in the US. Now, we're going to read the article in just a second, the entire article, because it seems to be something that no one covering this story has actually done. But the biggest reason I find this so disgusting is that the funneling system from that pornographic website that leads to the Telegram group chat isn't being spoken about, so we can't fix it. There's no way to remedy it because that's not what people think the problem is. This hyperbolic fear-mongering is causing far more damage to the victims than I think anyone actually realizes. If people were more clear and more honest about the Telegram group chat itself being the problem, then we could actually attack that problem and get the group chat sorted out with, hopefully. But most people who are hearing about this story know nothing about the group chat. So people are directing their anger towards the wrong place places, whether it be people trying to correct misinformation, whether it be people who are trying to correct misinformation, but in a very, very dickish and not all men kind of way, which you're seeing all over X particularly. Unsurprisingly, in a lot of right-wing spaces that are trying to like paint this out as women intentionally lying in some weird attempt to paint half the men in the country out as rapists. Just know that I'm not one of those people. I'm truly trying to correct the misinformation here in as good faith as possible. I just don't like when misinformation is spread regarding victims of sexual assault. And if you have a problem with that, then tell me why. Now we're actually going to read the article, so obviously, spoiler warning, this report contains details of sexual assault. This is Piotr. He lives in Poland with his wife who's in her 40s. We're not showing you his face or his real name, but we can show you the messages he sent us. What he says he is doing to his wife is a crime. And you can see here I managed to record a clip once when I had my last 2 pills. My wife doesn't even know that I recorded it. Posing as a user, we found him in a private group, one of many on the messaging app Telegram. Telegram is a very discreet messaging app that a lot of, it's very popular nowadays for the spread of CP or CSAM as some people call it. From what I'm aware, it's a lot more difficult for authorities to recover messages on apps like Telegram. Also very popular when it comes to dealing drugs and selling drugs and buying drugs, for example, for the same reason. At any hour, men from around the world gathered on the ZZZ group to swap advice on drugging and then filming the sexual assault of their partners while unconscious. I'm going to take a wager and say ZZZ isn't the real name of the group because they don't want to funnel people towards it, like sick people who would actually go and visit this thing. The abuse shared via video and pictures in this group of nearly 1,000 users was treated as a community. So there you go. That's the real number, nearly 1,000. Anyone saying 62 million has not done their research. It's that simple. And when it comes to claims that are this delicate and this serious, yeah, you better do your fucking research. This is not the type of article that you just read the headline of and nothing else. Then you got a message here that I don't even want to repeat because it makes me fucking sick. But for survivors, including 3 who spoke with CNN for this story, the consequences are devastating. Exposing a global academy. In shocking group chats, men encourage one another to drug and assault their wives and swap tips on getting away with it. By Saskia Vendumi, Cara Fox, Neve Kennedy, Eleanor Stubbs, and Marco Chacon. This story is the final part of CNN's As Equal series on gender inequality. For information about how the series was funded and more, check out our FAQ. The world was confronted by this form of internet-enabled abuse in 2024 during the mass drugging trial of Dominique Pellicot and 50 other men in southern France. It was on a so-called website in a chat room called Without Her Knowledge that Pellicot was able to connect with dozens of other men to instigate the rape of his then wife, Giselle. While drugged unconscious by him, she was raped over 200 times by 70 men, not all of whom could be tracked down by police. The Pellicot case briefly shone a spotlight on this dark corner of the internet, but while Coco, the website involved, was shut down and public attention moved elsewhere, this behavior did not disappear. A month-long CNN As Equals investigation has uncovered a hidden online world where the commodification and amplification of sexual violence against women is flourishing. One porn site, motherless.com, is home to more than 20,000 videos of so-called sleep content uploaded by users, with hundreds of thousands of views. The website, which had around 62 million visits in February alone and whose core audience is in the United States, describes itself as a moral-free file host where anything legal is hosted forever. The legality of some material posted is in serious doubt. So-called sleep content is categorized using descriptive tags such as passed out and eye check. So, just to be clear as well, as much as it wasn't 62 million people in a group chat conspiring on how to assault their wives or partners, it was 62 million people visiting a somewhat niche pornographic website as far as I'm aware. Makes me wonder just how many visits the more popular websites like Pornhub, for example, get. I'm sure we can check, actually. Jesus, okay, Pornhub receives 4.26 billion visits a month. As much as I think viewing porn, of course, is not on the level, nowhere near the same level as, you know, conspiring to drug your wife, I think that's also a real genuine problem that also should be talked about. That's obviously not the problem being detailed here, but I'm not saying it's a good thing by any means. Especially on a website like this, where sleep content seems to be somewhat of a norm. The eye check tag is frequently used in the so-called sleep.porn community to categorize videos like this one posted to the ZZZ chat group to indicate a woman is asleep. In these videos, men film themselves lifting the closed eyelids of women to show that they are sleeping or sedated, with some eye check videos surpassing 50,000 views. Inside the motherless sleep community, first reported on by German investigative journalists Isabel Beer and Isabel Stroh, members trade advice on how to drug their partners. On the ZZZ chat group, which a motherless user had linked to and where we first met Piotr, they do the same. CNN is not providing the names and doses of the specific medicines the user said they employ. And then you've got some messages here from the users. Been wanting to do this to my missus for ages. I can't get the drug, but honestly, shit scared of overdose. Always start low, you're thinking long game, so if first time ain't enough, up the dose. However many mils in a milkshake, she felt nauseous, so gave her a tablet of a... Jesus Christ, man. You know, I did read this article beforehand, but actually recording it and like trying to analyze it critically now, Jesus. Yeah, this might be a hard one to get through, so serious trigger warning. Fuck me. One motherless user claimed to be running a business selling and dispatching sleeping liquids to any address in the world. The man who said he was based in Ceuta, a tiny Spanish exclave on the North African coast, said on his Telegram account that it would cost 150 euros, approximately $175, for a bottle of the liquid that he said was tasteless and odorless. Your wife won't feel anything and won't remember anything he said. I'm guessing that the journalists who were behind this ordered some of this to, I guess, make sure that they were actually sending it over. Images show packages addressed to multiple recipients by a man who claimed to run a sleeping liquid delivery business obtained by CNN. Okay, so this might not be the journalists themselves, but maybe just some pictures that were shared on the group chat. So there is someone out there who is literally creating, maybe not creating, but definitely sending over products specifically to women. And not only that, but women who, you know, ideally should be in a situation, they're being violated by the person that they're meant to trust the most in their life. It just makes it that much more tragic. While the platforms vary, inside such groups, video is king. Some users advertise live streams showing the abuse of drugged women in real time. For $20 per viewer, with cryptocurrency the preferred means of payment. Again, maybe because it's harder to track. How are your streams going? Making any money? Yeah, it went well. That night 3 guys bought, and I streamed my unconscious wife to them. And did they direct you? They told me what to do, and I did it. Another user who said he was based in West Africa shared a clip from a previous live stream he said he'd done to entice us to his next. In it, a woman who he said was sleeping with his wife could be heard snoring as he climbs on top of her, then the clip ends. In Poland, the woman Piotr said that his wife also appears to be unaware of what is happening to her. I still have a few photos, but it's hard for me to put her to sleep. Men in these groups operate shielded by the anonymity of the internet, but they also find a sense of community and perverse camaraderie as they normalize abuse for months. Piotr spoke openly with us and even shared what he said was his address. So these people really trusted each other. I don't think I'll ever be able to understand the sick minds of the people who actually engage with this group chat, so I'm not even going to pretend like I have any, I guess, desire to psychoanalyze them or try and figure out what is going on, because I just know that I won't be able to do it. I will say, though, the journalists behind this are really doing a good job here. This is the type of change or awareness that you'd hope to make if you become a journalist, I feel. Does your wife suspect anything? For now, I'm hiding everything well, but I have to be careful. When it came to meeting face to face, he resisted. We wanted to confirm he was who he said he was, so we traveled to his hometown in Poland. CNN found Piotr and his wife at a local restaurant. Uncertain how he might react and unwilling to put her in danger, we chose not to confront him, instead reaching out to the police about our findings. Piotr is just one actor in a vast global network, his wife likely among many unaware victims, but some survivors know. This chapter is titled, But He's Your Husband. When Zoe Watts learned that her husband of 16 years had been crushing her son's sleeping medicine into her tea her while she was passed out, it shattered her world. A husband of 16 years and they have a kid, a whole son. There aren't really many worse things you could imagine a husband of 16 years doing to their wife. We worry about who's coming behind us, walking down the street, or who's even friending us on Facebook. You know, we worry about going to our car late at night in a car park, but we don't worry about who you lie next to. I didn't realize I had to, Watts said. It's not even as though in these relationships, consensual sex isn't even on the table. Not, by the way, that would make any of this any more justifiable or explain anything, but I'm trying to make the point here that the people doing this aren't doing it because they're motivated by sex itself or because they're not getting it or their wife is abstinent or something like that. There's some sick thrill that they get from having sex with their wives, specifically when they are unconscious and unable to consent. Her then husband's confession came on an otherwise ordinary Sunday in 2018 after the couple, who share 4 children, had returned home from church. He reeled off a list of his wrongdoings as if it was, you know, a shopping list, Watts said, speaking to CNN at her house in Devon, England. He told her the abuse had been going on for years. He just sort of said, I've been using our son's sleeping medication to put in your last cup of tea at night, to tie you down, take photographs, and you. The admission left Watts questioning all their intimate moments. At the end of a very busy day, I was just grateful I had a cup of tea before I went to bed, because I was so tired and didn't have to make it, she said, adding, you don't expect anything other than innocence to come from your partner. There's a video as well. Okay, let's have a look.
Survivors of these assaults, like Zoe, often spend months or years trying to rationalize what's happening to them. She met her husband when she was 17. He's now serving 11 years for sexual assault by penetration and drugging.
That's not enough. 11 years is nowhere near enough. Fuck that, you're kidding me. Like, how many times did this rape occur? If we're to guess, like, this happened 20 times, for example, he got less than 1 year for every count of rape. I think that's fucking disgusting. This guy should rot in prison for the rest of his life.
To the public, he did seem Mr. Perfect, but there was an undercurrent throughout the marriage.
She had no reason to suspect that he'd been raping her for what she now believes was 10 years. Then one Sunday, after church, he confessed to crushing pills into her drink.
She'd been getting for 10 years and he only gets 11 years in prison. I don't think there's any way of justifying that at all.
He reeled off a list of his wrongdoings to me as if it was, you know, a shopping list. I've done this, and this. I've been using our son's sleeping medication to put in your last cup of tea at night, to tie you down, take photographs, and I think I just went into shock. I became ill, very ill, and had lost weight and couldn't really leave the house. I found it. I don't think I knew how to be around people at that time because I felt so broken.
Zoe kept the abuse secret for a few months as she grappled with what had happened to her, speaking out only after a severe panic attack. Her mother then called the police.
There were some times that I thought, you know, this isn't right. But what would it mean? What would our family look like? Their children would be without a dad, and there would be a reputation, and my boys would grow up having a reputation, and they'd know what their dad was doing.
Yeah, I think those boys would be a lot better without that dad in the house. Imagine the man who spends the most time around you in your developing years. Like, that's supposed to be your male role model, your father, doing that to your mum. Obviously, I'm not blaming her for thinking that way at all. There's no blueprint on how to act when something that fucking horrible is admitted to you. And I'm sure she does not regret, you know, confessing to her mum and him being behind bars now. Just to be clear, even if she did, I wouldn't, you know, be annoyed at her for it, or even pretend to, like, I don't know, there'd be no negative emotion from me towards her at all. Bottom line is, those kids are better without that dad in their lives. I'm sure we can all agree.
Tell me why.
It just doesn't. I don't know. It's like one of those things, really. I struggle with that, to say that that's what's happened. It's like people can say it to me, but I just don't think. Whew.
You know you're not alone.
Yeah. Yeah, sadly.
I was going to say, that's part of the problem, is that she's not alone. But there's 1,000 other men who've been doing this to their wives. I will say, though, this is partially why the misinformation surrounding this case gets to me. Because people might think that they're helping by, I don't know, in an attempt to encourage women to stay safe or be more wary of men as a whole. But in reality, they are hurting and making justice a lot harder to get for people like this. Because the funnels that lead to the Telegram group chat, as well as the Telegram group chat itself, is going to be a lot harder to shut down if people don't know that that is the actual problem here. Concerned about her children and still grappling with what had happened to her, she initially kept it a secret. The internal struggle eventually took a toll on her health. After a serious panic attack, Watts told her sister, then her mother called the police. While she believes pressing charges was the right decision at the time, it was agonizing. A 4-year legal process saw her children become targets for bullying at school and left her social network all but destroyed. What fucking school were these kids going to? Jesus Christ. I was in a rough school. Like, it wasn't a friendly school by any means, but from memory at least, I don't think any of the children in that school from year 3 to 6th form ever would have even dreamed of bullying someone for something like this. Maybe 1 or 2 people, but those 1 or 2 people probably would have been fucking jumped afterwards. Watts said one of the many difficult aspects of her ordeal has been confronting people's assumptions about abuse within a marriage, even though she recognizes that they are rooted in misinformation and unconscious bias. I've had a lot of people say, yeah, but he's your husband, or but you weren't awake, so it's not the same as being taken down an alleyway, is it? Her husband is serving an 11-year sentence for rape, sexual assault by penetration, and drugging. Watts still struggles to use the word to describe what happened to her. It is too painful. There's shame and guilt that comes with it, that, oh, maybe I should have known, or I can't believe I didn't realize. Why didn't I connect those dots, she said. This chapter is entitled, He Was Trying to Change My Reality. That enduring stigma is exactly what Giselle Pellicott has sought to challenge on the international stage, telling the world at her former husband's trial that shame must change sides. In the town of Wigan, northwest England, Amanda Stanhope, who too was by her ex-partner, said Giselle's strength inspired her to speak out. She broke the silence and shame. If she can do it, then so can I, Stanhope said. She now posts videos on social media to spread awareness about this type of abuse, encouraging women to trust their instincts. Over a 5-year period, Stanhope said she would often fall asleep without remembering how, and would wake up to bruises on her body and in different clothes with a towel under her without any memory as to why. After waking up a few times to her partner violently her, Stanhope knew something was wrong and asked him to stop. Instead, Stanhope said she was gaslit. He would then turn on me and say, well, you're on too much medication, you must be imagining it, that didn't happen, you're mental, you're crazy, she said. So even though I felt 100% sure that something had happened, he was trying to change my reality, saying that it hadn't happened, even though the physical signs were there. With the support of her brother, Stanhope eventually went to the police. Her former partner was charged with rape and sexual assault. He took his own life before the case went to court. Good. At least we got something of a happy ending, I guess. Although it is a shame that he doesn't actually have to face up to the fucking crimes that he's committed. Sharing her story is part of Stanhope's healing process, but the trauma has unequivocally changed her outlook. I see everyone as a potential predator, Stanhope said, adding, it took my innocence of people away. We can watch her video now as well.
Amanda Stanhope didn't know her partner had been abusing her for 5 years.
What were some of the physical signs?
I'd wake up on a towel that wasn't there when I went to bed. And sometimes I'd go to bed with, I'd remember wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and they wouldn't be there when I woke up the next morning. I often found lots of bruises on my body that hadn't been there previously.
Her former partner was charged with multiple counts of rape and sexual assault.
The police had to look through all these.
And what did they make of them?
The one where I was absolutely horrified, and he'd performed a sexual act on my face whilst I was unconscious, and it was completely clear. And the police looked at this one and I thought, there's the evidence. And the police said to me, well, we can't use that. That isn't clear evidence because it looks like you're pretending to be asleep.
In England, where survivors Amanda...
Jesus fucking Christ, dude. I don't even know what commentary to add to something like that. Like, I know there's a reputation that the police have in mishandling cases of sexual assault or predation or anything of the sort, but that sounds like a step beyond anything that I've even heard. Surely the group chat the video was sent to is... like, come on, dude. Was there no analysis of the group chat or the Telegram group that he was in, or what the intent is of all the men that are in that group chat?
Nearly a quarter of sexual assault victims are assaulted while unconscious or asleep, and that number has risen over the last decade. Amanda's ex took his own life before the case could go to court. She's still piecing her life back together, and the shock of learning about group chats where this kind of abuse continues hasn't faded.
Instantly, my whole body goes and my hands start shaking. I don't even have a word for it, that it's being glorified, and men are teaching others how to do this, and they're doing this to the people they say they love. It's beyond evil.
I'm glad she added the qualifier of they're doing it to people that they say they love, because they definitely don't love them. As much as they might say it or even genuinely believe it, there's just no fucking way. That's not what you do to someone you love. It's not even something you do to someone you care about in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, you do that to someone that you have absolutely zero care for. Actually, no, you don't. You don't do that to people you have no care for. Me and you, regular fucking people, if we don't care about someone, we just leave them alone. This is something you do if you're one of the most evil people in all of human fucking history who doesn't care about someone. I really do think it's a good piece what CNN have done here, because I had no idea that groups like this existed. I'm not surprised that groups like this exist, but it's just not really something that I've ever thought about before. And I think it's so shitty that, like, at the knowledge or at the thought of groups like these actually being a thing, there is not one part of me that goes, oh shit, I wasn't expecting that. Don't get me wrong, if it were genuinely 62 million people engaging in this group chat, yeah, that would have been a pretty big fucking shock. But when I read the actual story, there's unfortunately nothing surprising about what I'm reading at all. Survivor Valentina, a mother of two who lives in northern Italy and who asked CNN not to use her real name, and she, too, has a hard time trusting anyone. I can't conceive of the fact that a woman could be treated like a slaughterhouse meat, because in the end, that's what I was. Valentina said, reflecting on the horror of discovering videos that her husband of 20 years had filmed, showing him abusing her after he had drugged her with alcohol and sedatives. I was lucky to find the videos because truly it would have been a bit difficult to believe because I had no marks, she said. Valentina doesn't remember the abuse, but it left psychological scars. is. No matter how much you try to brush it off, it's always right there beside you, the experience you've had. She said, adding that it just takes a bed, a camera, a different scent to trigger her. Yeah, I couldn't fucking imagine. I could not imagine. I've had nieces and nephews sort of burn their hand on frying pans before, and then whenever I go into the kitchen and cook with a frying pan, I feel a little bit wary. That's like a mini trauma trigger for me. Even though my nieces and nephews ended up like totally fine a day or two later, their hand just hurt a little bit, but it was just sort of that scream that I couldn't stop thinking about. So I couldn't imagine what a different scent or a bed or a camera, for example, would do to someone like this who had been getting for 20 years or 10 years, whatever the amount of time was here. She is seeing a psychologist to help her move through the trauma, but it still feels fresh. As much as I might be happy, smiling on the outside, then I come home, I still have to deal, make friends with my nightmares, which are always just behind the door, she said. In 2021, Valentina's former husband was sentenced to 8 years in prison for multiple aggravated sexual assaults. I thought 11 years was a light sentence. Fuck me, Jesus Christ, dude. Years later, she is still struggling to understand his motivation. Like Dominique Pellicott and Piotr, Valentina said her husband was spending lots of time online, possibly seeking a self-education. And then we'll watch Valentina's video here.
We've distorted her voice to protect her identity. Her husband was sentenced to 8 years in prison for multiple aggravated sexual assaults.
Allora, all'inizio del video io sdraiata sul divano, già incosciente, e lui con questo bicchierino di Montenegro mette una siringa dentro, aspira e me la mette in bocca. Avrà fatto per una ventina di volte. Le persone più subdole sono quelle più vicine a te, proprio quelle con cui abiti. Non ti puoi veramente fidare di nessuno. Secondo me è stato autodidatta proprio. Si è informato tramite internet. Per quanto tu possa essere menefreghista, ce l'hai sempre lì a lato. Basta un letto, basta una telecamera, un profumo differente che da quel giorno lì sicuramente è cambiato anche qualcosa in me. Per quanto io possa essere magari felice e sorridente fuori, poi torno a casa e devo comunque fare amicizia con i miei incubi che sono sempre dietro la porta.
Some forms of pornography have long normalized violence against women as entertainment, with algorithms that favor extreme content further pushing exploitative material into the mainstream, experts say. Claire McGlynn, a law professor at Britain's Durham University and an expert on violence against women and girls, told CNN that the growing presence of voyeuristic material on mainstream porn sites glorifies abusive behaviors both on and offline. It's a problem that many men and many people in society aren't taking seriously enough, she said. Yeah, because porn is very normalized in today's society. However, I do think that there is a lot of evidence that does, like a lot of genuine scientific empirical evidence that does show a clear correlation between the overusage of pornography and an objectification of women. And as well as like, you know, domestic violence and all these really horrible things that a lot of men tend to do, especially men who consume a lot of porn. For users within the online sleep porn community, the thrill of the abuse is not only in the act itself, but in the collective dynamics surrounding it, said Annabelle Montaigne, a psychologist who assessed half of the men convicted in the Pellicott trial, including Dominique, who organized the crimes. Within these sites, there is almost this notion of brotherhood, she said, adding that participants find themselves creating bonds that meet and reinforce their narcissistic needs. Sandrine Hozo, a French lawmaker who, after being drugged by former French senator, has campaigned to raise awareness about drug-facilitated sexual abuse, called the group Schools of Violence. I would even call them an online academy where every subject is taught. There are all the subjects and disciplines needed to become a good rapist or sexual predator, she said. And you've got a user from the group saying, I hope I've helped in some way, my friend. Today and tomorrow are the best days to make it happen. Good luck to everyone. This is the sort of message you send to like a basketball team, or something like you send to a good friend of yours before their wedding even. Like it really does give the aura or the vibe of like a joyous and momentous occasion, and the fact that we know what it's about, and Jesus man, it makes my fucking blood boil, as I'm sure it does yours. Meanwhile, the landscape of drug-facilitated assault is continuing to evolve, with perpetrators pivoting to more readily available prescription medicines that act quickly and leave little trace in the body compared to the date rape drugs of the past, making it harder for such cases to make their way to trial. US-based sleep specialist Michael Kramer-Borneman told CNN, it's difficult to know how widespread drug-facilitated sexual assault is, as reliable data is limited. Across Europe, most criminal justice systems either lack specific monitoring systems for DFSA or do do not include it as a separate category in official crime statistics, meaning there's no fully comparable Europe-wide data set on such assaults. This is a topic where reliable, specific data is scarce by design. A World Health Organization spokesperson told CNN, adding that there are no accurate estimates of this type of abuse due to how underreported it is. And how difficult it is to report, I suppose. Many go unreported because victims feel embarrassment, guilt, or perceived responsibility, or because they have limited memory of the assault, the spokesperson said. Well, I'd assume a lot of people don't know that it even happened to them as well. Like, a lot of these people that went on for 10 years, 5 years, how many men might have engaged in this sort of behavior for 1 year and then stopped, and then maybe came back to it 6 years later for a few months? It's like, there's a very strong possibility a lot of women don't even know it's happening to them. They might have hunches, but they might not, like, I'm throwing it on the table there. A lot of people probably don't even know. Low reporting is further compounded by a lack of training for both hospital staff and police recognizing victims of DFSA, experts say. In England and Wales, the jurisdiction in which survivors Watts and Stanhope live, 43% of recorded sexual assaults involved a partner or ex-partner, according to March 2025 data, marking a minor decrease from 45% 5 years ago. The proportion of victims recorded as having been assaulted while unconscious or asleep has risen to 23% from 21% over the last decade. I'd be willing to bet that that's because more of them are being reported, though. Conviction rates for sexual offences across Europe, as in the US, remain low. This comes as no surprise to Stanhope. She says she was shocked by the initial police response to a video that showed her former partner sexually assaulting her while she was unconscious. I thought, there's the evidence, and the police said to me, well, we can't use that isn't clear evidence because it looks like you're pretending to be asleep. Police eventually charged Stanhope's former partner, but her experience underscores why victims of domestic abuse often do not report these crimes. In the Petticoat trial, a defense used by several of Giselle's was that they believed it was part of a consensual sex game. I don't know how lawyers fucking sleep at night. Imagine being assigned someone like this as a criminal defense attorney. Like, surely they can't have tricked themselves to think that their client is actually innocent in any way, shape, or form. Watts told CNN that her former partner presented a similar explanation. He said he thought, I wanted me to find myself waking up with him having sex with me like I'd asked for it, she said. McGlynn, the law professor, told CNN that while the law, at least in the UK, is generally well equipped to cover the range of criminal offences committed by men who drug and their partners, the global online phenomenon persists because of a reluctance from governments to go after what she sees as the heart of the problem, the online platforms themselves. I don't even know if that's the heart of the problem. It definitely facilitates the issue and makes it a lot easier for the problem to exist at the scope it does, but the heart of the problem is the men who are so willing to rape their wives. That is also admittedly a much harder issue to tackle, though. Doesn't mean it's untackleable. I would imagine, but correct me if I'm wrong if you're more educated on what type of upbringing causes this sick behavior, or is at least responsible to an extent for it. But I'd imagine a lot of it stems from childhood, perhaps. You know, single parent households is a very high predictor of crime, and I would also guess sexual crime as well. Partially why I myself are so passionate about abortion rights being legal everywhere, because the less unwanted children, the less single parent households, the less children that are being raised in houses that clearly don't have the funds or education or ability to raise said people, the less crime we will have, the less sexual crime we will have. I'm not saying that would solve this problem by any way, shape, or form. I'm not saying it would even significantly decrease the amount of people who take part in this, because I just don't know. It's impossible to say. But I'm pretty comfortable in saying that it would probably help a little bit, maybe. That, and of course, a lot of, sexual education. As someone who's not, I'm not going to pretend like I have the fucking answers here. Let's just continue reading the article. During the course of CNN's investigation, the ZZZ group was taken off the messaging platform Telegram. Thank fuck. Telegram didn't respond directly to CNN's questions about the ZZZ group, but in a statement to CNN following publication of this report, it said that the content that encourages sexual violence is explicitly forbidden by its terms of service and is removed whenever discovered. I think that's bullshit, by the way. I think that is total bullshit. Telegram is so infamous for CSAM groups that there's no way they are unaware of every single one. Moderators empowered with custom AI tools proactively monitor public parts of the app and accept reports in order to ban accounts breaching our terms of service and remove millions of pieces of harmful content each day, including content that calls for sexual violence, it said. And while the website used by the rapist in the Petticoat case, Coco, was taken offline, other sites are springing up. The Coco founder was charged with operating a platform that allegedly enabled a wide range of serious crimes, including sexual exploitation, drug trafficking, and financial crimes. He has denied the accusations and is awaiting trial. Last year, the UK communications service regulator Ofcom investigated Motherless.com, not for the site's content but for its parent company. company, the Luxembourg-registered Kick Online Entertainment SA, allegedly failing to complete a suitable and sufficient illegal content risk assessment. The investigation was closed after the company provided the necessary paperwork. The regulator said Ofcom opened a subsequent investigation. The investigation was closed after the company provided the necessary paperwork, the regulator said. Ofcom opened a subsequent investigation into whether Kick Online Entertainment SA has put age checks in place to protect children from pornography, and in February 2026, fined the company. Motherless did not respond to CNN's request for comment. Ofcom told CNN its job was not to tell platforms which specific content to take down, and that the responsibility is on platforms to decide whether content is illegal. Motherless has avoided being targeted for the type of content posted on its site due to US safe harbor protections that largely shield platform owners from direct liability for their users' uploads. This creates spaces where men like Pellicott can operate behind a veil of anonymity. Their abuse is too often invisible despite being plotted in plain sight. While it's unclear what's next for Piotr, the online communities he has inhabited live on. Update. In early April, Polish authorities arrested a man on charges of aggravated rape. The district's prosecutor's office in Lublin declined to officially confirm his identity. Polish media outlets have identified the man arrested as Piotr. The man who authorities said had admitted to charges against him has been remanded in custody. He could face 3 to 20 years in prison if convicted, the prosecutor's office said. 3 to 20, that's such like a wide margin. That's fucking ridiculous, dude. I will, of course, be linking this article in the description for everyone interested. I'll also be donating $2,000 from the ad revenue made from this channel, I guess, to Women's Aid, which is primarily a domestic abuse charity for women and children. I'll do that now so I don't forget. £2,000 rather, not $2,000. But with that, I do hope that you have a more educated opinion on what this article is actually about, as opposed to just sort of consuming a lot of the exaggerated or misinformed claims that we are seeing on platforms like TikTok and X, for example. Claims that only make it harder for the victims here and other 1,000 victims or so to actually seek justice for the sick things that happen to them. I would actually like to go on TikTok and have a look at how this topic is being covered by people.
62 million views or 62 million men, you know, the 62 million views to that website, Motherless, that focuses on adult videos about, you know, assaulting women while they're asleep and incest and RAP and all that other stuff that is associated with that RAPE Academy online has gone super viral, which... yay, I guess, because now my comment section and my DMs are filled with people, namely men, sending me nasty, hateful, evil things because I spread misinformation when I said 62 million men compared to 62 million views. They're making sure I will be held accountable for my mistakes. And it hit me. I'm being held to more of an account than all the men who participated in all of this bad stuff. Once again, women will carry the brunt of the repercussions for talking about it, even when done incorrectly, because I made a mistake and I've said it like 7 times now. But they will have more consequence than any man who actually participated in the violence.
So of course, this is just like they're not like a journalist or anything, so I'm not going to hold them to a higher standard than I hold actual journalists. But even the corrected misinformation that they believe that they are exhibiting now is still very much not what is going on. And I'm not mad at them at all for that, by the way. I'm definitely not going to insult them or threaten them like a lot of the sick men who have messaged her. I want to make it clear, making this video, that that is not my intent here at all. I'm not looking to chastise anyone who believed in this false information, right? Unless, of course, you are an actual journalist or someone who claims to be someone worth listening to. Because if you are someone like that, then yeah, you should have done your due diligence and made sure you got the facts right, especially for a subject as delicate and serious as this one, where misinformation could seriously harm a lot of the victims that you claim to care about so much. Either that, or maybe the intent is just to fearmonger, like get people so scared that they feel as though they have no choice but to engage with your content, if that makes sense, which I'm sure is going on a lot right now. I would say if someone in your life doesn't know all the facts about this situation, it really isn't hard to calmly and cordially correct them or say to them, look, I understand your frustration, I understand why this means so much to you, as it does me, but here's what is actually happening, and here's why what you believe is actually more damaging to the victims than you realize. We need to know what the problem is to actually solve the problem. It's that simple.
This is for all the men, mostly, who are currently focusing their energies on fact-checking the claims about 62 million men and saying, actually, it was 62 million visits, because that's the exact same type of pedantic I also am, and they're right. You're right. In fact, it's a very good point. It's probably fewer than 62 million individuals, right? Right. So, is it a lot fewer? How many fewer? Like, on average, how many times a month does one individual visit a site like that? Since you seem to know so much about it, you seem to be very, very confident that it's a lot less, right? It's a lot fewer individuals that are going to that specific site in 1 month, February 28 days specifically, than 62 million individuals. I'm just curious, how much less? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to suggest that you are one of the 62 million that month. Any other month? Because again, by the same token that 62 million visits doesn't necessarily mean 62 million individuals, it's also true that everyone who visits that site might not visit every month. Right? So maybe those 62 million views don't even begin to paint the picture of how many individuals are actually.
These are all very good points. I do actually wonder if the website itself is specifically for sleep or rape content, or if it's just a regular pornographic website where that type of content is uploaded a little more often than other ones, because that would change things a lot. Let me go back to the article. What was it called? Motherless or something? I think it's been taken down. I'm not looking for the porn site just to be. I'm not going to click on it or nothing. Okay. It does still exist. I don't want to click on it though, to be honest with you. Okay, so it's not a vanilla website, I guess. It does seem to be more focused on kinks like BDSM. There's some scat on there, which is disgusting. Sorry, I don't mean to kink shame, but I find it grim. And then, yeah, there's probably a lot of fantasy there as well, and a lot of genuine accounts of too, it seems. So I'm not even saying that the 62 million visits is like justifiable by any means. Like, a lot of the men who are visiting the website are still going on there to view simulated. However, it is still important to make the distinction between the sick pieces of shit who wants to look at videos of it happening and distinguish those people from the even sicker pieces of shit who actually want to contribute to the making of said videos. Of course, they are both fucking horrible, but it's important to make that distinction for sure.
CNN came out with an article about a Telegram group where guys would discuss how to drug their wives and then do things to them in their sleep. And either people severely misread the article or they're just lying for views. But here's what the article actually said, and I'm gonna take a second to complain about CNN for a second, because every time you look at this article and you click on it, you're gonna get a full fucking page video TikTok style that you literally can't exit out to see the actual article. I had to go from another article they wrote that referenced this article and click that link to get this. Actual fucking ugh. Anyway, the article actually said that this Telegram chat had dozens of men in it. Meaning probably less than 100.
But hang on, that's not true either. It said almost 1,000. Sorry, what? Did I misread it? And I need to check now. Shared via video and pictures in the group of nearly 1,000 users. Yeah, not dozens.
Special kind of website called motherless.com gets total. And the reason why this is referenced in the article is that some of the men in this Telegram chat posted videos of them doing that stuff to their wives on this website. And we don't know how many views these specific non-consensual videos got, but the amount of views that sleep content across the entire website got was 20,000 views. And this is kind of the reason why I don't go on those websites, because a lot of people go on there assuming that everything is consensual and it's being done with the knowledge of both parties, but I know that's not fucking true. So a lot of people probably went on that website and thought, this is something consensual that's happening, and it's part of... But in reality, some of those videos were not consensual. And I think those videos and the fact that CNN's mobile is just like complete ass, maybe fix that, I don't know, are preventing people from actually reading the article, which does give you tips on how to recognize the patterns from actual survivors of this type of abuse. So actually read the article.
100%. I'm not sure how they got the dozens thing wrong, but I agree with everything else she says, of course. Makes you wonder, like, because obviously pornographic websites will always have the risk of, like, you watching non-consensual content, if that makes sense. So if you are to watch porn in any way, shape, or form, it probably makes the most sense to go for a more mainstream one, like Pornhub. As much as it had, like, a big scandal a few years ago, I believe nowadays they're a lot more stringent when it comes to making sure the safety of their platform is in tip-top condition. I'm sure it's not perfect at all by any means right now, but it's a lot better than most other porn sites, I'm guessing. In fact, weirdly enough, I think the most ethical porn site would probably be OnlyFans. Like, that is the one where there is the least risk of non-consensual acts taking place, if that makes sense. Obviously, you still do have OnlyFans pimps and a lot of exploitation that takes place there, but in terms of pornographic websites, like, I don't know if ethical is the best way to describe it, but for lack of a better term, it's probably the most ethical one, which is weird because it's not even technically a porn website. Maybe that's a half-baked thought that I've not actually thought enough about, so be sure to let me know in the comments.
62 million men are not in an RAPE academy. Now, this feels like a very weird video to make because the fact that a community exists at all around spreading information on how to drug and assault women is horrific. It should not exist. It is awful. It is genuinely evil. However, people are not reading the original article and are misinterpreting data in a way that would make it sound as if a third of American men are actively in a group chat spreading information on how to drug and assault women. So to clarify, not in defense of this, but the numbers being spread on TikTok because people are not properly reading the article are drastically different, okay? So to clarify what's going on, the article talks about a website in which people post explicit material, and that website has very little moderation.
Yeah, look, I mean, this guy, he spits facts. This is a great video. He's a great creator, so I'd recommend you go give him a look. But these comments here are what I have a bit of an issue with. You're focusing too much on getting the number correct instead of the fact that such an academy exists. It's like, I'm sorry, but when it comes to discrepancies that are as big as 62 million, it just isn't acceptable to accept misinformation like that being spread about rape. And simply correcting that bit of misinformation does not mean you do not care about the Academy existing. The two are not mutually exclusive at all.
There is no sensationalized headline to create gender wars, and this isn't about creating gender wars. This CNN article contains zero misinformation. The 62 million men number is a drastic misquote, but no matter how many men it is, it's still awful, it's still heinous, and the priority is still women's safety. I'm not downplaying the situation at all. I'm referencing the actual thing in the article, but it only sounds like downplaying because you were given misinformation.
Oh man, mate, this guy is fucking spitting right now. If people got the number right to begin with, then it wouldn't sound like defense or downplaying. It's only because some shitty journalist probably came out and spoke about it in an attempt to fearmonger. And then you get comments like this, stop defending the semantics. I fucking hate this. I hate this. People like this, they don't realize how much harm they're actually doing.
Saying is that, 62 million hits to us, group chats on how to drug and assault women isn't 62 million men. And that's not what I'm saying. The 62 million number isn't from those group chats. They went to an adult content website, a website which gets 62 million visits a month, right? And they found on that website 20,000 videos that had collected hundreds of thousands of views on sleep content. Through connecting with a user on that site, they got linked to a chat of, according to CNN, around 1,000 men, right? 1,000 men in a group chat discussing how to do this and where to buy things, and they ship things, etc. 1,000 men in an international group chat on how to drug and assault women is still awful. It's still horrific. And that doesn't include, there's other things out there. We don't know what the full number or the full scope of something like that would be. The 62 million number is just a misread of the article. Those numbers aren't connected to each other. And I know that people are like, well, who cares? It's still bad. I just think that it doesn't help victims. And I think that it is also kind of gross when a thing that is already horrific needs to be sensationalized for you to care about it.
That's very true. That's very true. It doesn't need to be 62 million for people to actually give a fuck. And the fact that some people only care, I feel like the fear that some people have is that it won't matter as much if it's only 1,000 women. And I think that is fucking disgusting. You know, I found a comment here, and this is really interesting because I haven't thought about this before. This is why Pornhub and other websites that do regulate their content very heavily, that cooperate with investigations, shutting down in the States is bad. Same thing happened here as well in the UK. You need like an ID verification to access the website. This is why you need to be against these laws around ID verification for sites, because it drives traffic to sites like this and increases the prevalence of issues like this. Fuck, that's so true. I've never even thought about that before, but that is so true. Okay, one more video, because this is low-key the one that inspired me to make this one.
Misinformation surrounding the CNN story is incredibly damaging, not to men or to men's reputations, but to actually helping the victims and to actually bringing attention to the thing that is in the article that they're trying to get you to focus on. The next thing that I'm about to say is perhaps triggering some trigger warnings. It's something that is deeply personal, and it's not something that I relish sharing online, and I honestly don't want to share online, but I fear that you will not take me seriously or listen to me unless I lead with this. Yesterday was my birthday, and I always get pretty weird around my birthday because I was conceived out of rape. This is something that I found out when I was 14 years old in a conversation with both my parents. It's probably not the picture or the scenario that you're picturing in your head, but I shouldn't be here. In a world, like a just world, where there are full conversations around consent and people understand that and women feel empowered, I wouldn't be here. It is something that when I was in college, I almost dropped out of school for after my freshman year because I was very suicidal about this. It's something that's taken a lot of personal work to just exist around. And it's part of the reason why I do work with the ASEA Women's Center, the domestic violence shelter for Muslim women in New York City. I try to raise money with them every year. We do this one every year in October, and then this past March in Ramadan, we did a fundraiser. I think I raised over $3,000 for them. It's like a thing that I'm always drawing attention to. But this isn't a matter that I take lightly or something that I am separate from, right? No matter what the number of men involved in, it would be bad, but the issue with the misinformation is that it's fear-mongering around something that didn't happen. It is fear-mongering around something that's not real. It doesn't matter if it was 62 million men or 62 million hits. 62 million hits on a rape academy is still a bad thing. Would be incredibly prescient if there were 62 million hits on a rape academy, but that's not what happened, and it's not what's in the article.
Okay, he then goes on to sort of describe and explain what the actual article says, but we've already gone over that. But I think the explanation that he gives is incredibly prevalent and important. So we'll skip through that part, but this bit is also super important.
France, where the man drugged and assaulted his wife over a course of many years, he used a website called Coco that has now been since shut down. And that Telegram group chat, the ZZZ group, got shut down, but Telegram as a platform still allows for these things to exist. Motherless still allows people to post content under the guise of being fetish content for sleep content. And there's no potential consequence to the people who run that website. By focusing on the not real thing, the idea that 62 million hits existed on a rape academy, you're distracting from the very real issue of the way that these platforms operate and the things that these platforms allow to happen. That misinformation that originated from a Twitter user misunderstanding the article to then being pushed on social media has made this entire conversation surrounding something that doesn't exist. And I'm very aware, I'm not a not all men guy. There are men who are now using this as an excuse to be like, oh, they'll lie about anything. They'll say this. Those men are wrong and a part of the problem. However, we are in this situation, this greater conversation around what's happening because of the misinformation and the misinformation that ran wild, which is fully obfuscated, is fully covered up the actual story. So it's not good to keep running with it. And I understand why this is such a high pressure point for people, why it's so emotional for people. I get it. It's a serious, serious thing. But by continuing to double and triple down on this information, by not reading the article, by not actually involving yourself and engaging with the reality of what's happening, we've fully taken away from the thing that CNN, the thing that these researchers, the thing that these lawyers and these victims, the whole thing that they were willing to tell their stories about in that article, we've completely covered it up with something fake. So please, as I've been consistently saying, just go read the article.
This creator's name is Christian Divin. I would highly recommend you go and give him some love, because I don't think he gets enough love. You know, you got TikTokers like Natalie Reynolds with what, like 50 million followers, and this bloke with 750. It's a fucking crime. So go show him some love, because he spoke nothing but facts that video, and he did it in a more eloquent way than I could ever dream of. So I'd say if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and that. But fuck that. Go show him some love, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.